So now let's go to the peripheral nervous system. We're not going to make any diagrams. We're not going to label anything. We're simply going to close it up and just summarize what I've already told you. I've already told you guys that the peripheral nervous system, it includes all the nerves outside the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. And I told you that we have got the cranial as well as the spinal nerves. Those make up the peripheral nervous system. And then the peripheral nervous system, it actually transmits impulses from the body to the central nervous system and from the central nervous system to the body. It's just a summary of what I've already told you guys, that basically those nerves that are making up the peripheral nervous system, all of these blue nerves that are branching out from different parts of the body, they actually bring in some information, or they transmit information from different parts of the body to the central nervous system, because the central nervous system interprets all of that information and creates a relevant response. So if I gave you an example, guys, to say, for example, if I bring a hot surface underneath your leg right now, your leg is going to feel the heat and you're gonna pull away your leg away from the hot surface. It is basically because of those nerves that are working, the nerves of the peripheral nervous system. They transmit the message to the central nervous system. They transmit the message to the brain and the spinal cord, and then the brain and the spinal cord will send a message that is relevant, or a relevant response that is needed to be able to escape that situation. So basically, those messages, guys, I say don't call them messages anymore. You should call them as nerve impulses. Don't call them messages, it's nerve impulses. So it transmits nerve impulses from the body to the central nervous system and vice versa. And then the peripheral nervous system, it forms the somatic nervous system as well as the autonomic. And I've already told you the difference between somatic and autonomic. The somatic one, it receives information from sensory organs and the brain. Remember, the somatic nervous system was all about the external things, something that is happening in the outside environment. For example, whenever you are sensing something, whenever you are seeing something, it's something happening outside your body, right? So it is going to be controlled, or it's going to be coordinated by the somatic nervous system. But the autonomic nervous system, it is the one that will be controlling the involuntary actions within your body. Okay, let me just add here, within your body, internal. Okay, within the body. So these are the changes that happen within your body, and your brain will try to restore them and get them back to shape. Okay, and I told you guys that the autonomic nervous system has got two branches for it to be able to work. Okay, the autonomic nervous system, we abbreviate it ANS. It has got a sympathetic as well as a parasympathetic system, or we can say it's a sympathetic as well as a parasympathetic branch. So the autonomic nervous system, remember, it is the one that is controlling responses within the body, or responses that are associated with something happening within the body, nothing to do with the outside environment per se, right? So how does it do this? It uses two branches. It uses a sympathetic branch as well as a parasympathetic branch. So the sympathetic branch, what does it do? It always prepares the body for the stress or emergency by doing what? By increasing the heart rate as well as the breathing rate. Okay, this one is very important for you guys to note. The sympathetic nervous system, or the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, what does it do? It prepares your body for stress or emergency. So whenever your body is undergoing a stressful or an emergency situation, okay, it's a stress or an emergency situation, then now your body is actually being your sympathetic nervous system, or the sympathetic branch. It actually prepares your body to respond to that, usually by increasing the heart rate as well as the breathing rate. This is not only limited to these two things. The sympathetic nervous system can also increase, it can also constrict your blood vessels It can dilate, it can do multiple things, okay? It can even constrict your bladder. So the sympathetic nervous system, it is just preparing for a stressful or an emergency situation, right? We usually use the term fight or flight to describe an emergency situation. Whenever you hear the term fight or flight, we are describing an emergency situation. Why do we even call this? Let's say right now, um, if a lion was to come, guys, if a lion comes right now and then it rolls in front of you, you can do two of things, guys. You can either fight the lion or you can run away from it because it's an emergency situation. So we call it a fight or flight situation. So fight simply means that remain there and fight whatever problem it is that you're facing or whatever stress it is that you're facing. Or flight, it simply means run away from the situation. And for you guys to be able to fight a situation or run away from it, for you guys to be able to do both those things, you need some energy. So the sympathetic nervous system, it uses energy to prepare the body for stress or emergency. Okay, so it uses energy. Okay, let's just say kind of a provides energy, not really uses, provides energy. Let me just say provides. Let's just say provides a burst of energy. I like to use the term a burst of energy for emergency situation. Okay, so whenever you experience an emergency situation whereby you will either need to fight the situation or run away from the situation, that is where the sympathetic nervous system will provide you with some energy to be able to do that. Because for you guys to be able to run away from a lion, you need some energy. For you guys to be able to fight the lion, you will still need energy. So the sympathetic branch, it is always there to be able to provide you the energy for an emergency. You guys will understand furthermore, Guti, yeah, why does heart rate increase energy? Because breathing rate, if you breathe more, if you breathe like if you have a high breath, like you guys kind of get the breath, right? Like if you are breathing heavily, heavy breathing, you are actually allowing more oxygen to enter inside your body. And if there is more oxygen entering inside your body, you guys already know that the oxygen is used for cellular respiration. You guys already know all of that. Oxygen is used for cellular respiration. All right. All of that, like your cells require, for your cells to be able to produce energy, they need more oxygen. Okay, we call that metabolism. So basically, for your cells to be able to produce energy, they need what? They need a oxygen. So why does your body start breathing heavily whenever you experience an emergency situation? Let's say that a lion comes in front of you right now. You start breathing heavily, you start panicking. It is not really because you are panicking because you choose to do that. Your body is naturally made to panic in such a situation. Why is it panicking? Why are you breathing heavily? Is so that there is more oxygen that enters into your blood. Okay. And if you breathe in more oxygen, then it means that your cells will start producing more energy. You guys already know cellular respiration from grade 11, right? So really, you guys already understand what whenever you've got a lot of oxygen, your cells produce more energy. And that energy is adenosine triphosphate. You guys know it from grade 11, ATP. So basically, the sympathetic nervous system, it provides energy in that way. Not what the sympathetic nervous system has got energy to just give you anytime. No, the sympathetic nervous system, it actually causes you to breathe faster whenever you see an emergency situation. Grade 12s. Okay, you guys always experience emergency situation whereby you have to run away or you have to fight the situation. You should observe the pattern of your heart rate. Your heart will start beating faster. That is why whenever you are scared, your heart pounds faster. It will be like having like it beats so fast. Why is your heart beating so fast? It is so that more blood is pumped, more oxygenated blood is pumped into the body. so that the cells can provide more energy for your body to escape the situation. Okay, so the sympathetic nervous system is all about providing energy for an emergency situation. Okay, that's why here we say that the autonomic nervous system is controlling involuntary actions, because all of that you do not choose for yourself, Rachel. You don't choose for that to happen. You don't choose for yourself to breathe heavily when you experience an emergency situation or a stressful situation. You don't cause your heart to beat heavily. Let's say something scares you right now. Your heart will start beating heavily, automatically, naturally. It's because really it is made to be like that. Okay, the sympathetic nervous system, it makes it to be like that. It increases the breathing rate as well as the heart rate, allowing your body to provide more energy or to produce more energy for you to escape the emergency. Is that clear, Great Charles?
Yes, sir.
Yes, guys, don't sleep. You should don't sleep. You guys should focus so that we finish this. All right. Then we've got the parasympathetic nervous system. I told you guys that they act opposite to one another. The sympathetic one is providing energy. This parasympathetic is doing the opposite. It slows down the body. So it does the opposite. It slows down the body by decreasing the heart rate as well as the breathing rate. So the parasympathetic nervous system, or you can say the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, what does it do? It slows down your body. It does the opposite of what your sympathetic does. Because remember, the sympathetic nervous system, it is giving you a lot of energy. It is making your body more active enough to be able to fight the situations in front of it. That is the sympathetic nervous system. But the parasympathetic nervous system will now come to be able to slow down after all the emergency is done, Great Halls. Let's say right now you met an emergency situation, your heart started to beat faster, you started to breathe heavily. That is your sympathetic that is working. But now let's just say the emergency is now done. You are now relieved, and you guys, you're no longer feeling, yeah, like your heartbeat will start dropping. It will not continue like beating so much faster, right? Like your breathing rate will start being normal. You start breathing like every other average time. Okay. But you are now escaping from the emergency. Now you are going back to a state of rest. For example, okay, let's just say I start running right now. If I start running, Great Halls, if I start running, I'm going to breathe heavily. Like, okay, that is me breathing heavily. Why am I breathing heavily? It is because I've been running, right? The sympathetic nervous system has triggered my heart rate, has triggered my breathing rate, right? That's the sympathetic nervous system. Now the parasympathetic will now come whenever I'm done running and I'm now resting. I'm now resting. I'm no longer running. The parasympathetic nervous system will slow my body down. So those are acting opposite to one another. That's what it actually means, because the sympathetic is giving energy for and is increasing my heart rate, and my heart is pounding faster. But now the parasympathetic will now calm me down and relax me down. So basically, the parasympathetic, it works for restful conditions. Okay, it brings the body to restful conditions. Let's just say it brings, can just add that, it brings the body to restful conditions. To restful conditions. It simply means that the parasympathetic nervous system is actually getting your body to calm down from the heavy breathing and from the big heartbeat and stuff like that. So they act opposite to one another. They cannot act at the same time, guys. I mean, you cannot breathe heavily and breathe slowly at the same time. No, you cannot have a big heartbeat and have a small heartbeat at the same time. No, they act opposite to one another. They give each other a chance. So those are the two branches that are controlling the autonomic nervous system. And all of that is involuntary, because you do not really choose for your heart rate to be high or your breathing rate. So the autonomic nervous system, it works hand in hand with the medulla oblongata. Because remember, guys, that we say that from the brain, the medulla oblongata is the one that is controlling the involuntary actions, such as the breathing and the heartbeat rate, right? So basically, the medulla oblongata works hand in hand with the what? With the autonomic nervous system to be able to be able to increase your heart rate and stuff like that. In fact, the autonomic nervous system will first is actually okay, let's not complicate it. Let's just say that in simple terms, the autonomic nervous system, it works with the medulla oblongata to be able to control your breathing rate and your heart rate, especially those two. But there are other things that you can think of. So those sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic, they work antagonistically. So antagonistically simply means that they work against each other, or they are quite the opposite. They do opposite. The sympathetic, it provides energy, but the parasympathetic, it slows down the energy, it slows down the body, right? It decreases the heart rate, decreases the energy production. So they are doing opposite things. So they're working antagonistically. So each organ will have nerves, both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems. And this is actually known as double innervation. I think I already told you guys about double innervation at some point. Here we go. I told you guys that the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, they're actually what? They're actually acting opposite to one another, or they're acting against each other, or you can say that they're acting antagonistically. All right. When one rises, the other one falls. All right. So those two, they have got this principle of double innervation, where these are working antagonistically, but to be able to kind of fulfill the same purpose at the end of the day. So that's the autonomic nervous system for you there. Are we clear, great Charles? Are we still together so that we can try to look at the last thing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, now let's get a bit deeper. In fact, let's make this a trailer for the next session. Right. Let's make this a trailer for the next session. The next session, we must be able to finish with this first part of the topic, and so that you can start with the I. Okay. Time is no longer on our side, great. We need to push strategically. That's why I even did a long session today. Yeah. Now let's look at the structure and the function of a nerve. We're not talking about anything new here. We're talking about the nerve that I've been talking about all along, guys. What did I say a nerve do? What did I say a nerve do? What is a nerve? What is it doing? Like from the diagram that I've been showing you all along. A nerve. What does the nerve do?
It transmits the impulse.
From
messages from all parts of the body, all over.
Yeah, so from different parts of the body to where?
To the brain.
Yes, to the central nervous system. You say the central nervous system. So that you can accommodate the spinal cord as well. Okay, so yeah, that's the function of a nerve. I've already shown you guys the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves here. Okay, so now I want us now to look at these nerves and look inside them. What makes them so special? In fact, how do they even transport messages from all parts of the body to the central nervous system? Like, what are those messages? How do they even look like? All of that. We need to look at the nerve tissue. So a nerve, whenever we're looking at this nerve, this is actually tissue. Tissue, you guys already know from grade 9 that a tissue, it is made up, is a group of cells that are having similar functions, or that are adapted to do the same function in a sense. So the nerve tissue is made up of nerve cells, and we call them the neurons. So for us to end up having this nerve, for us to end up having these nerves that you can see, these blue nerves here that are transporting information and transporting or transmitting impulses from all parts of the body, for us to have these, they're actually made up of small cells that are known as neurons. So your body has got billions of neurons inside your body, and they are doing wonderful work because they are the ones that allow each and every message communicated in the outside environment to be able to reach your environment, which is your brain. This is so big and this is so powerful because honestly, these nerves, without these nerves, there wouldn't be any communication from the outside environment into your brain or into your body. So basically, these nerves are acting as a connector. They are connecting you to the outside world. They are connecting you to the world at large. So let's talk about these connectors. So these connectors, they are made up of small cells that are known as neurons. So those neurons, they're just pegged up closely so that they can end up forming a nerve, right? So basically the nervous tissue is made up of those nerve cells then. So neurons, all neurons have got a certain structure that we need to look at, right? This is the structure of a neuron. So this neuron is a cell, guys. It's not a tissue, it's a cell. It's a cell. It's just microscopic. It's very small. And there are billions of them. There are millions of them. There are a lot of neurons inside your body. What are those neurons doing? They are the ones that are communicating. They are the ones that are allowing information to pass through. In fact, all information that you guys can perceive, it is transmitted by the neurons. So we call them neurons. Neurons basically consist of three main parts. We have got a cell body, we have got a dendrite, we also have got an axon. So those are the three main parts. Then we're going to look at the secondary parts. So the cell body is the body of the cell. It's kind of the body of the cell. You guys already know that the cell must have a nucleus for us to even call it a cell. We usually consider those with nuclei inside. So there must be some nucleus inside. So the cell body is this part here. This is the cell body. The cell body, inside it has got a nucleus. So this is your nucleus. So the nucleus, guys, you already know what it does. The nucleus has got a chromosomes and whatnot and stuff like that. But here the nucleus basically, it kind of carries the identity of something, of a cell. The nucleus gives you the identity of the cell in a sense, but you're not expected to even describe anything that has to do with describing what the nucleus does. No. The nucleus is found inside the cell body. So it's more like this is the body of the cell. So this part is the body of the cell. This one that looks like a star is the body of a cell. And inside it, there is a nucleus, of course, with some genetic material, of course. Right? Then we have got some dendrites. So we have got dendrites. Dendrites actually look like they are trees. So dendrites, they look like they are trees. They look like this. So if you guys are doing geography, you guys already know the dendritic pattern, right? You guys know the dendritic pattern. Those people at the geography game. Do you know what a dendritic pattern is? Do you know what a dendritic pattern is?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You guys are already aware of such things. So these things are known as dendrites. Dendrites, a similar thing to dendritic pattern. Dendrites. So the dendrites are very important because they are the ones that are allowing the information to be able to reach the cell body of the neuron. Because the information, we said we're no longer going to call it information. We're going to call it impulses. We're going to call it nerve impulses. Okay. So the dendrites are these parts that look like they are tree-like shape. They are tree-shaped. The dendrites transmit impulses towards the cell body of the neuron. So the messages are coming from a certain place. We're still going to look at where the message is coming from in the first place. But the messages or the nerve impulses, they do what? They come in different directions and they enter through the dendrites. So when they enter through the dendrites, they now go to the cell body. And this happens so fast in less than a fraction of a second, in less than milliseconds. So basically, the messages, the impulses, they are being transported towards the cell body. And what's transporting them towards the cell body? It is the dendrites. So the dendrite transmits impulses towards the cell body of the neuron. And then now, when the impulses reach the cell body, they will be processed and stuff like that, and then they will move down here. So they will keep on moving down and moving down and moving down. So as they keep on moving down, they move down along this pipe-like structure that is known as the axon. So the axon is a pipe-like structure. It looks like a pipe. What does it do? It transmits the impulses away from the cell body, because now the impulses are no longer going towards the cell body. You guys can see that here. At first, the impulses were going into the cell body, like they were going into the cell body, and they were moving through the dendrites into the cell body. You guys already saw the cell body. So the impulses were trying to enter into a cell body using these dendrites. Now that they've entered into the cell body and they are processed, they now need to move away from the cell body. So now your impulses are moving away from the cell body, and they move inside a pipe-like structure that is known as an axon. So the axon is responsibility. It is to transmit impulses away from the cell body. So this is an away from the cell body. And then the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is another party that we have, right? So the myelin sheath, what does it do? The myelin sheath, it actually insulates the neuron. So myelin sheath insulates the neuron. Actually, this is the structure of a neuron. So you guys must know that we have got this myelin sheath. So this axon, the one that is transmitting impulses away from the cell body, it is actually surrounded by stuff that is known as myelin sheath. So this stuff here that you guys can see is myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. So this stuff here is myelin sheath. This one, myelin sheath. Myelin sheath actually acts as an insulator, like a literal insulator. Those who are doing physics, they know the difference between an insulator and a conductor, right? So basically, the myelin sheath, it insulates the neuron. Why do the neurons need to be insulated? So that the impulses can move faster. Okay, write this down, guys. It's very important. So it insulates the neuron so that the impulses can move faster, or they can move at a speed that is high, something like that. But basically, your impulses, guys, since we say that the nervous system is a quick responding system, so your impulses, they must be able to move faster, or the messages that are being sent to the central nervous system, they must be able to do what? They must be able to move quicker. They must be accelerated, actually. They must move at a higher speed. So the myelin sheath is able to achieve that by insulating the neuron. So the axon of the neuron, this axon part, it is coated, or it is surrounded by this myelin sheath. The reason being, this myelin sheath, it is an insulator. Myelin sheath is an insulator, so it insulates. Okay, it insulates the neuron, and as it insulates a neuron, simply means that now your impulses are going to move faster. And basically, guys, if you guys did not know, those impulses or those messages that we're even talking about is just electricity. In real terms, like if we go to the physics of it, you guys, I don't know if you knew that your body is actually functioning with electricity. Like if you are actually having self-powered electricity. I mean, all of these are responses, all of these impulses, because I'm sure some of you guys are asking yourself, how does a message go to the brain? Like if it is hot, how does the brain know that? Yes, the message is transmitted, but what is the message? Is it going to be heat? What is it going to be? And I'm saying it is going to be impulses. And you'll be like, what are those impulses? Impulses are just electrical signals, guys. It's just electricity. So if you guys did not know, your body is actually functioning from electricity, self-powered electricity. Okay, so your body is just electrical on its own. That is why whenever you hold electrical objects, electricity can be transmitted inside your body, because versa your body is already electrical. It's operating on electricity basics principles.